enacted subsidy regime linger, the more it attracts public scrutiny and criticism. The Agora policy, a Nigerian think tank and a non-profit group which conducts policy research, has called for removal of petrol subsidy and reduction in the country's appetite for debts. According to the organization, the mounting debts owed several lending organizations by Nigeria have not positively impacted lives of the people.
Yeah.
This think tank group, they are saying, first of all, do away with subsidy, and that we should do away with subsidy. And President Muhammadu Buhari has been there for over 7 years now, and because of the impacts, the reaction, the pains, but we keep paying this subsidy, and it will hurt even the new administration. You can listen to Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, the former Emir of Kano, saying it next to that. It doesn't envy the next administration because that is a big decision to take. That we have to do away with subsidy.
At some point or the other, we have to buy the bullets.
You say at some point or the other, have we not gotten to that avenue now? We've been dilly-dallying. We've been on this.
There's this joke that somebody told me
since 2012.
when he said he was broke, and the man said, "You still have a car now."
So you're not broke.
So you're not broke. You understand the concept was saying? I don't want to say that the subsidies is scam. I think that one is already established. Because we move beyond any realistic expectation. Even everybody in Lagos, they should have cars. We will not be consuming what they say we are consuming. Especially with the improvements in public power supply in the last 6 months or thereabouts. We all know how much petrol costs in the Republic of Benin, how much they cost in Togo, in Niger. We know how
It's about the cheapest, what we sell.
So we are an island that will provide succor for our neighbors. I don't even want to talk about those who are affording our fuel. That's another thing entirely. Well, my hope, and maybe misplaced, I'm not sure, is for the Dangote thing to come on stream, so that we can proudly say we are refining at home. And that, of course, will help end the subsidy. And like I said, it's a hope upon hope that will produce enough, and all the smaller ones. Because the only thing that will stop this subsidy and be effective is internal refining. And once we don't get to that, no matter who becomes president, unless he wants to spend the term, I want people to stone him out of office. He will huff, he will puff, but he will retain the subsidy. Because what will happen if you remove it suddenly? In the country, they've not increased lower, what do you call it, minimum wage, is to ensure that the minimum wage in Nigeria can last a worker exactly 4 days for you to spend it. So you cannot do that and fight corruption at the same time.
This seems to be like a catch-22 situation. If you do it, you're damned. If you don't, you'll be damned.
We've been on subsidies in 2012. Politicians come, they go. Some promise removal of subsidy as electoral campaign. They get there, they develop code feet. Others say we'll keep subsidy.
We are paying in trillions now.
In trillions. You see, let me tell you.
Money that is meant to use for another thing, or for other things.
It is for Nigerians to accept that. I read a book, and it said the author said, "We must die for us to live." Nigerians must know that we must die on the issue of subsidy for us to live. If we remove subsidy today, you see, I've read enough, I've listened to economists and all that experts enough to know that if we remove subsidy, we may be in a very tight corner, but it may not be for more than 6 months a year. This pricing will come down. The truth is that we are not consuming what the government is paying for. And once there is no subsidy and nobody is subsidizing, people will import just what they can sell. But it is not going to be a tea-party affair in the beginning. The moment it is removed, there will be war. There will be difficulty.
There will be uprising.
There will be uprising. But it is for you and I.
Because what we are
to
saying
let
now,
Nigerians know.
the reality now is that we buy it Is it 160 now?
167,
170. What you are saying now, it might go as high as 400.
We may have to pay 300, 400.
And it may come down to
But
60.
eventually, it will come down because those importing will now be forced to sell what they actually buy because nobody is going to pay them extra. Now, the danger about the Dangote, the smugglers will stop because it will no longer be profitable.
There's no money now.
It will no longer be profitable to take it from here to Benin, where it is already being sold for 420.
Yes.
And you're coming with 400, so on Niger or Chad. We learned that it goes as far as Mauritania, Nigeria oil, because even the transport can be built into it conveniently and they will still make profit. Now we talk about Dangote. It will not help us unless we remove subsidy first. And I'll tell you why. Dangote is in business. I'm saying this on national TV. If aligning with the price that is that obtains now will make Dangote conglomerate make more money, they are not likely to go too low. We've seen it in cement. We've seen it in other products. They come and they just, a little reduction. After a while, the price will go up again. Because every businessman wants to make profit as much as possible. But if we...
As much as legal.
Yeah, as much as possible. That's the truth. If it's as much as legal, then some things will not be happening. As much as possible. So what I think we should do is educate ourselves on the need to swallow bitter pills on the issue of subsidy so that we can we can enjoy it in the end. As long as government is willing and ready to pay some people for inflating figures, for telling us we have consumed what we did not consume according to obvious facts now. Even government itself, government agencies and government bodies are coming to tell us, for God's sake, even if we are drinking fuel instead of water, it shouldn't be this. How many gallons of water are we drinking per day?
Let me just pause you there. This is Journalist Hangout, and I have Gani, Kaide Balogun, and Dari Odufokon in the studio. The GKB, we are looking at the other leg of it is that our debt profile.
Yeah. That one is unacceptable.
It's becoming embarrassing now that every year when we're budgeting, we have to set aside what's in terms of revenue. We incur more debt than the revenue that we're making.
We even get more. We even get loans to pay debts, which itself is dangerous, and that doesn't make sense. I agree with you that because normally people will tell you that if you are in a hole, stop digging. But we seem to go the other way. What I call the Socrates maxim, that if you think somebody is coming in to change the narrative, they are not. The debt profile of the states, of the federal government, started at the tail end of the Jonathan administration, when they started borrowing money to pay salaries. And we thought this administration would make a difference going down the line. But so far, because of the attention they are paying to infrastructure, they have incurred more debt in the system. And like we said when we started, whoever is coming in as president will have to clean a lot of things on his plate. Because there is no way in this God's earth that we can continue like this to the next 2-3 years. Already, we are a pariah when it comes to loans. Don't forget that even our best friend, China, are not very reluctant to help out in certain areas. That's why there was the slowdown in the Rotimi Amechi grand plan of running railway around Nigeria. So we're already pariah in some areas. People don't want to give us loans. And nobody's going to forgive us. They know how much we are making. They know how much of our house are being stolen. They have the facts. We are not qualified for debt forgiveness. So if anybody is coming or going to Washington and telling them that we want to please forgive us, they know how much you've wasted. They know how much money you are wasting on subsidy. They know how much money you are wasting on the discos. They know you've not done any new cleaning.
They've told us to remove subsidies since. This building is
they said there's nothing you can do. We've not done that. Our taxation regime is not to talk about. People are getting away with more than in Nigeria. Things that they cannot do in other countries, they get away with in Nigeria. They will not pay taxes. A lot of people are enjoying these things that they give them at the ports.
Waiver.
Tax waivers.
A lot of people are getting waivers in a country that people are not getting money. You are giving waivers for people to bring in things that they are selling at premium. They are not selling at cost that people can afford. They are selling at premium. And yet you are giving waivers for them to pay. Just last year, they mentioned 4 roads that companies are supposed to do and pay them. As of today, coming from the border, no movement on those roads. And they said they've given them 5-year tax break to do these roads. Not one single movement on the one coming from Idiroko that will come out at Shagamu Interchange.
Maybe after 5 years they will start.
So then you wonder, roads that were given out for you to do, I thought the first thing you do is mobilize those sites. You cannot blame government for that. They give you all the consensus you wanted. So the problem we have now is that we cannot continue to get busy and run it.
As at last count, we're owing over 23 trillion in terms of...
Do you even see our generation paying off that debt if we are not forgiven?
Our children's generation.
We are living like a set of daddies that have finished enjoying or eating what belongs to our generation, and we have started eating the things that belong to our children's
our
generation.
Grandchildren.
Soon we are moving into the biscuits and the snacks that belong to our grandchildren.
Our sweets.
And we find it so comfortable. Why do we think that we can live by borrowing? Every time we plead, can we? But people have come to tell us that if we don't borrow, we cannot run this government. Let us agree without conceding that this is true. So why don't we just look inward and cut off these excesses? A public official with 8 essays, 10 personal assistants,
14,000.
a governor with
14,008.
14,008.
They will earn salary.
They will earn salary,
And
they will
allowances.
collect allowances.
After it's done, they'll get money
And everything is being
on the state.
funded by debts, borrowings. And then we have a set of governors. We've had a set of governors in the last 10 years or so that make it mandatory on the federal government to borrow. Whenever they need money, there is always this outcry from governors that the federal government should borrow.
Let's quickly take this call. Wale is calling us from Ikorodu. Olawale, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ayo.
Good afternoon, Wale.
Yeah. This issue of subsidy, before President Buhari came to power, he told us categorically that subsidy was a scam. Was he not able to discover those people in charge of the scam? This is the 7th year. So don't let us deceive ourselves all these things. Then my people in my village, in Ogopoekiti, they are not benefiting from subsidy. They are only subsidizing the lifestyle for the rich. So the poor people, the illiterate, the downtrodden, they are not benefiting at all. Then, in respect of these debts, look, and they point to what they have done with the humongous loan they've taken from China and other people. What happened to Zambia will happen to Nigeria. They will soon take over our railways. God bless you.
Okay. Yeah. Talking about pointing to what they've done.
Yeah.
They've listed it. We've seen Lagos Ibadan Expressway under construction. We've seen Second Niger Bridge under construction.
Lagos Ibadan is almost ready.
Kano, Kaduna, Abuja.
Sukuk loans that were tied to projects. That one we can.
And the resuscitation of the rail project across
So if we have loans that
I
are
cannot
tied to
take
projects,
I
one
cannot
can
take train to
understand.
No, they were
Ibadan.
tied to projects.
I can take train to Ibadan.
I took
From
it
Ibadan.
regularly.
I think Abeokuta.
Yeah, Abeokuta, Ibadan.
Abeokuta, Ibadan. Okay.
To Abeokuta is 1 hour to Ibadan. Because they are running slowly. It's about 2 hours. So you leave Lagos at 8, you get to Ibadan around 10:30.
No, then you can time yourself.
You can time yourself.
It's okay. And then there is
And there
fair
is,
safety.
once you get there, it's about 5 minutes to UI. So you can. I know people who go to Ibadan. However, there was a time I was in the train station and something peculiar happened. About 10 people were going to a party, and they joined the train in the morning. Well, we came together in the evening with the return train, and they were carrying all these gifts.
Yeah, from
I
the
said,
party.
This is a business. Because if you have a party and tell your people, report at the train station. So the point you made is genuine. because you can see that some loans were used for what they said they will be used for. But we have loans by state governments that cannot be. Some people are building airports that there's no road to get to the airport. You understand? They are building what I call vanity projects. That because they are not.
We celebrated our airport in Ekiti yesterday.
You know, that was Ekiti airport.
Except,
Meanwhile, if you do Google, the distance between Akure and Ado Ekiti is less than 40 minutes.
no more
By
trouble.
road.
The road.
And if you do the road, that
But
means
if,
about
if
30
the
minutes.
road is more terrible, what if the road is more terrible? If we make the road more terrible, put the fund to some more serious.
But-
It's a kind of agro-allied.
We know that's how it started.
If
That's how we start.
this will alleviate, if somebody called in and said the people in the realities are not enjoying these loans, it is we are subsidizing the lifestyle of the rich.
The rich.
When you consider that statement and you link it to what we are talking about, you understand what it means. You see, the truth of the matter is, when we want to cite projects, when we want to decide on projects to be carried out, we should consider a whole lot of things. How many? I will always say the greatest number of good for the greatest number of people.
Yeah.
See, what is a number of people that will benefit from this or this? When you are comparing, it's either this or this. But we don't do that when it comes to policies in Nigeria. And that is why you must understand the issue of loans and subsidy in the sense that
In that
today,
context,
if we decide to remove subsidy, possibly if the people in the rural area are well sensitized, you discover that the uproar may not be much. It will come from these urban areas. But the impact of subsidy will be felt
In the cities.
in the rural areas too, when NEPA or PSN is not available. When other facilities force them, the absence of other force them to recourse to the use of fuel.
Okay.